been so helpful to me, whether I needed to talk to her for 2 hours on a phone interview or just about what's going on in my life. She's there regardless, and I'm so excited for her to share a little bit. And anyway, without further ado, Maria LaChapelle.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me? All right?
Yes.
I don't know how close I need to be for you to. I was going to do the ASMR thing. Okay. We share a lot of stories, don't we? As women, as people, as families, right? As young people, and as someone who's my age, just a tiny bit over 29, I'm 54. But we share a lot of things, and sometimes we forget to connect with each other about those things. So at some point in our talk, I wanted to ask you to share your story. So if you have a story about breast cancer, if you have a story about adversity, it doesn't even have to be related to cancer or anything else. I want to be able to talk about that. So what I'm going to ask you is to kind of dig down, find your courage if you're able to speak and stand up and talk, and if not, that's okay. But what I want to ask you, first of all, is who has a life plan for resilience? Who's got a life plan for that?
Yes.
Anybody? Margie?
That's me, I'm right here.
You have a life plan.
No, I have no life plan.
For resilience. For resilience. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start off with that. All right, Miss Summer. I'm going to reach out to you because you've been one of my touchstones. So when you're in college, you're making these bonds. You're growing as young ladies, young men. You're growing as individuals. You're growing into your sexuality. You're growing and you're defining yourself, right? What would happen if you got to 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old and you didn't define any of that stuff before? What if you thought your only worth was your physical presence, your breasts, whatever you can offer as, up on a plate? We are more than our breasts, right? We are more than that. We have a spirit, we have a soul. But this is the time in your life that you want to create those relationships with each other, right? Your friend, do you have a friend sitting next to you? Yes. Where is she? 2? Okay. We don't want to play favorites here. It's Elon. Student perception survey after the talk. Okay, so you want to be able to reach out to people who are going to be value-minded just like you are. And it's not easy to find those people. You're going to find a few people in your life, but probably this is the time that you're going to create those assurances for your future life. And I was speaking with a few other ladies earlier, just in kind of the meet and greet, about what does it take to be resilient? And what does it take to overcome some sort of adversity? So I just like if anybody has an idea of something, a plan that they might take to overcome an adversity. It could be a class. It could be, getting a 67 on your first grade in a LaChapelle's course. What would it take to have you develop a skill to survive that kind of crushing blow? So what would be the first thing that might come to mind? Anything? Anyone? Yes?
I think asking for help and knowing that it's okay to ask for help.
Can you say that in the microphone? Because I can hear you.
Asking for help and knowing that it's okay to ask for help.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Chloe.
The things I tell my husband, he was in the military, and they couldn't ask for help if they had an emotional issue. It's so important to be able to ask for help. And I struggled. I was diagnosed with breast cancer December 28, 2 days after Christmas. Great. Happy New Year, And I tried to figure out, well, what's my life going to be like? I was like, well, it's not going to change. Not going to change at all. I'm just going to go do chemo. I'm going to get the breast tissue taken out that need to, and I'm just going to go on with my life. But things changed in small ways and big ways. And the people that I thought I could rely on, I couldn't. And it was heartbreaking. And worse than the cancer was the fact that people didn't show up for me. And the people who showed up, my high school friend, Kathy Clemens, lives in Seattle, got on an airplane and came out to see me. And I had a surgery a week ago Monday, to remove some more tissue, and they also found cancer in my abdomen related to, didn't expect to have abdominal surgery, but my best friend from college came and she stayed with me. She slept in my king-size bed in my living room, which Marjorie can attest to, because I can't climb stairs very well, right? It looks ridiculous, but it's like,
Adorable.
it's convenient and adorable. And my husband was up in the guest room where she was supposed to stay. So she stayed with me for a week. It couldn't have been more, I could not have been more blessed to have her company. And to say that I've seen her 4 times in 35 years is about right. Haven't seen her, but I could pick up the phone, call her and say, I need you. And for those of us who know that we need somebody, what's the right answer? I think I'm talking too close to the microphone. What's the right answer when someone calls you or texts you or says, I need you? What's the right answer? I'll be there. Yes, exactly. We want to be there, right? Say yes. What time do you need me? I'm on my way. All of these are great answers, right? So you want to be able to develop those relationships. So as we talk about breast cancer, and I'm not going to go into can you at least give me a little bit of sound? Okay, so I just wanted to woohoo. As you're developing your relationships in college, don't think just about like, oh, this is a good friend of mine. Think about your values and who you want to be tied to, because it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a huge difference. Boyfriends, girlfriends, your professors, you can develop relationships with anybody who will be a support system for you, but please try to develop this in your early part of your 20s, because by the time you get out in the workforce, nobody has time for these relationships. We don't have time. You're working. You're going to work on Wall Street? Okay, 72 hours, 80 hours a week. Try to make a friend. And try to make a friend with the person who's competing for your job. It's not going to happen. So be smart about it. Look at your family members and build those things. What other pieces of resiliency besides asking for help and knowing that you can ask for help? What other things can you do to be resilient? Come on, you guys have all smart minds. Anything? Yes, ma'am.
I guess believing in yourself.
Believing in yourself, and why is believing in yourself important?
I think, I don't know, you have to love yourself before anyone loves you.
You have to love yourself, so anybody else will love you. The strength, your internal strength. And Miss Margie, where are you with your pink glasses? Okay, so one of the things I love about Miss Marjorie, and she is of her strengths, and then she's also willing to say, I need help in this area, and ask for a mentorship or whatever. But having that sense of self and determination is so important, so important. What else? What else do you want to know about breast cancer? What else do you want to know about how this whole thing works? Yes, ma'am.
Was there any panic that you had when you initially got the news, or were you more just like, I'm just going to do this?
I was soldier, warrior. Everybody told me I was so strong. And what I learned about myself was I wasn't. I was frightened. I was frightened. And that's the hard part as an adult woman, to be, in my 50s. My husband and I've only been married for 5 years. And I was terrified. But nobody in my life has ever seen me terrified. They have seen me be the person who would be resilient, and I took care of my elderly parents. I have a brother with special needs who really needs a whole lot of care, and I was always the first to go to, and nobody came to me, and that was the hardship for me, was to show my terror. And I started talking about, this idea of suffering in silence. Why do we not talk about breast cancer? Somebody has prostate cancer, somebody has lung cancer. It's okay to talk about, but we can't talk about it because it's breast cancer and there's some sort of physical thing associated with it. There's some sort of physical thing associated that we can't talk about it because it has to do with our breasts. And the other aspect of it that I had a hard time with, Margie, was what is my sexuality? Am I only this? And I had implants in, and I just had surgery last week, and I had surgery to remove a tumor in my abdomen. And I was so worried that my husband wouldn't find me attractive. And even to the point of saying, this isn't for you, even though we've said in sickness and health, but this isn't for you, I get it. And he was like, are you nuts? Like, you're the funniest, smartest, cutest little bunny nose of a woman. I wouldn't leave you for anything. And I wish he was here, because he would say, and then some, if we see him come in, he hasn't missed a meal, you know what I mean? So he's kind of a big guy, but he would be like my biggest fan. And we have running jokes where we play pranks on strangers and stuff like that. So we do a little wink before we do it. So if he comes in, he might act like he's like, I don't know, stalking me or something like that. Who knows what he says. So the thing is, you need to build those resilient bonds. And that's, when we talk about breast cancer, we talk about fundraising. And I want to say to each and every one of you, you are just treasures to me, because I don't know any other college students who do this. I don't. It just brings me to a swell of tears to say how grateful I am that you would even consider this as your philanthropic cause for, the last 60 or 75 years. And I want you to know that you are appreciated, you're loved, and you're not alone. And if we have 65, 75 young ladies and men here, how many of you will be diagnosed with breast cancer in your life? You're going to need a friend. And come back to your Elon community and find that touchstone and be with them. Sit with them. You don't have to cure anybody, but the companionship and the friendship and the memories are priceless. I was honored to speak at your Think Pink in February, and I was able to, I passed around some photographs of me when I was in college, and my college ID and all this stuff, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, you're just like me. It was just like an immediate reaction. I didn't bring photos this time because most of my recent photos are like not safe for work, they're gross. So the idea is to inspire you to keep going on this path and not let your stories be eclipsed because it's a female disease. It's not. So I had said in the beginning, if anybody feels strong enough, maybe you could share a story about breast cancer or about how it's affected your life in any way. And I don't know who might want to speak up, but I would like to ask, if I could ask you to dig in and see if there's a story you might want to tell. Anybody willing to share a story? I'll just tell a little bit more of my story. I have 3 paternal aunts who've had breast cancer. 2 of them passed away. One of them is still alive. She's 90. Woo-hoo! I have some hope. But the reason that 2 of them passed away is they felt the lumps in their breast and they didn't go to the doctor, they didn't get treatment. Mammograms are on campus, you can go get it, even at your age. If you have any history of it, go do that. I did not know that my 2 aunts died of breast cancer because it was considered unmentionable. In the generation of my parents, they don't talk about these things. It's considered like, talking about ladies' underwear, when you're at the football game. So there's a stigma attached to it, just like there's a stigma attached to other ailments, mental illness or depression or whatever, that we should just erase. If we could all start telling our stories, I think we'd be better off for it. So that's one measure that I wanted to leave you with. And I hope that with your nods of approval that I can safely hand off the microphone to our next person. I put it all the way in the back.
Flowers and then one of our matching shirts. We all actually put together a gift for you. There are a bunch of different little tokens of like love notes and words of affirmation. So whenever you're having kind of a down day, you can hopefully pick one out and lift you up a little bit. Thank you. Yeah, of course.
Thank you.